Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Newshour, India's voice to the world. I'm Mark Lin. Namaskar. Coming up in the next hour. India rejects unwarranted references to Jammu and Kashmir in EU-Pakistan joint statement. Says those with no locus standi must not comment. Israel, Lebanon resume direct talks in Washington as border clashes and casualties point to fragile tensions. Russia and Ukraine trade strikes and accusations as major aerial attacks intensify amid stalled peace efforts. And the United Nations urges the world to prepare for extreme heat risks and drought linked to El Nino. India on Tuesday strongly rejected references to Jammu and Kashmir in a joint press communique issued following the 8th round of the European Union-Pakistan strategic dialogue, asserting that those with no locus standi on the matter should refrain from commenting on India's internal affairs. During the weekly media briefing, the MEA official spokesperson Randir Jaiswal said India categorically rejects such references.
We reject such unwarranted references in the joint press communique on matters internal to India. The Union territories of Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh are integral and inalienable parts of India. Those who have no locus standi on such matters should desist from making any comment on them.
The MEA spokesperson also said that there is no role for any third parties in a bilateral matter between India and Nepal, and the two countries have established bilateral mechanisms to deal with all aspects of boundary matters.
While close to 98% of India-Nepal boundary has been demarcated, there are some unresolved segments. The shifting of the course of Gandak River has resulted in this situation. In addition, there are cases of cross-border occupation and encroachment of no man's land in demarcated segments of the boundary, which are currently being mapped jointly. We have established bilateral mechanisms to deal with all aspects of boundary matters. It should be clear to all concerned that there is no role for any third parties in a bilateral matter between India and Nepal.
On water sharing issues with Bangladesh, the MEA spokesperson said the two countries share 54 rivers and continue to engage through the Joint Rivers Commission and other bilateral mechanisms.
We have several rivers, in fact 54 rivers that are shared between India and Bangladesh, and we have a Joint Rivers Commission, a structured bilateral mechanism to deal with issues pertaining to all the rivers that we share between India and Bangladesh. We will also be looking at these issues as part of our structured bilateral collaboration that we have on the issue of water, on the issue of rivers.
The MEA spokesperson further added that the Venezuelan acting president Delcy Rodriguez is scheduled to visit India from June 3rd to 7th, accompanied by a high-level delegation comprising several ministers.
Excellency Ms. Delcy Rodriguez, acting president of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela, will pay a working visit to India from 3rd of June to 7th of June. Will hold bilateral discussions with Prime Minister. The discussions will involve the full spectrum of India-Venezuela relations and explore avenues for further cooperation in the areas of energy, trade, investment, pharmaceuticals, healthcare, transportation, and renewable energy.
And Akhilesh Suman, who was at that press conference, now joins us with more. Akhilesh, give us some background as to the spokesperson's comment on Nepal and India and the bilateral mechanisms.
You know that newly elected Prime Minister of Nepal, Mr. Balen Shah, I think that he is not quite aware about the history of India-Nepal border issues, and that is why he made some statement that there are encroachment from both the sides, and also he made the statement that Sugauli Treaty that had taken place in the British time, and it is not justified. And then he told that that he will talk to UK Prime Minister about this. So these type of statements were coming from Mr. Balen Shah, and that is why India reacted. After asking a question by the journalist. So I think that that is the major issue between India and Nepal, that we live so closely to each other, because on the border you will fail to understand that which side is Nepal and which side is India, because the Indian and Nepalese people are so much intertwined, so much share same culture, same living lifestyle and everything. So in that way, such type of a statement that has come from the newly elected Prime Minister was not in very good faith, and it was not showing very good taste. And I think that after that, Foreign Ministry of Nepal, he made a statement that it will be dealt with a dialogue bilaterally. And after that, Nepal's ruling party RSP president is here in India, and he also met actually BJP's President Nitin Nabin, and he also met External Affairs Minister Dr. Jayasankar today. And it is expected that he will meet Prime Minister Narendra Modi also. So I think that was the issue that was asked by for a reply by a spokesperson, and he replied in that way that there are so many mechanisms between India and Nepal, and those mechanisms are working on border issues. So it is not something that is very disputed, or that is very controversial, but both sides should take it so easy that it will be resolved through dialogue. That is
also, Akhilesh, the spokesperson was talking about the Venezuelan acting president's visit to India. What can we expect from this visit? How much of it is about energy security, South-South cooperation? Tell us.
I think that is very important visit. Venezuelan acting president coming to India. I think in this point of time, when you see that because of America, Iran conflict, the Strait of Hormuz is closed, and in that situation, Venezuelan acting president is coming. That means that both countries will cooperate on energy security, because Venezuela has lots of oil and lots of gas, and we have already started taking oil and gas from Venezuela. And actually, India has been purchasing oil and gas from Venezuela for a long time. But after US put sanctions against Venezuelan companies who are selling oil, so after that India has to stop, because Indian company also might come into the sanction. But ONGC Videsh was acting there in Venezuela, and lots of our own money is there in Venezuela, because Venezuelans didn't pay what we had given them as purchase and development assistance, and also that export-import situation. So now I think that when Venezuelan acting president is coming, those things will be also discussed between Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Venezuelan acting president, and it is going to open a new era in India-Venezuela relationship, because people-to-people contact between the two countries are very good. We have very good feeling about Venezuela. Venezuelan have very good feeling about India. Yes. And the president who is coming here, she has also come earlier. This will be the 5th visit of Venezuelan acting president. Actually, before that she was minister in Venezuela, and in that capacity she has come 4 times to India. So I think that when she is coming here, trade relations will also be improving, and lots of talks will be taking place on the issue of trade, on the issue of people-to-people contact, connectivity issues, and also energy security.
We'll leave it there. Thank you very much, Akhilesh Sumant, for joining us with those inputs. Moving on, India is rapidly reshaping its role in global trade through a series of landmark free trade agreements. marking a clear shift from past protectionist approaches. The visiting UK Trade Secretary Peter Kyle met India's Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal in New Delhi on Tuesday to advance bilateral trade ties. Meanwhile, India and the United States are also close to finalizing the first tranche of their long-awaited trade agreement. Here's our report.
India has actively expanded its global trade network over the past few years by signing and finalizing several major free trade agreements and comprehensive economic partnership agreements with key countries and regional blocs. This momentum continues as the United Kingdom moves to expedite the implementation of the India-UK Free Trade Agreement. UK Secretary of State for Business and Trade Peter Keel is in India on Tuesday for high-level talks aimed at advancing trade ties and the next steps for operationalizing the recently concluded India-UK FTA. The UK government also indicated that efforts are being made to operationalize this trade pact at the earliest. India and the UK formally signed their landmark free trade agreement, officially known as the Comprehensive Economic and Trade Agreement, on 24 July last year. The agreement covers 30 chapters, including dedicated chapters on gender, innovation, environment and labour, making it one of the most comprehensive trade agreements signed by India. According to the UK government, bilateral trade between India and the United Kingdom is already worth £48 billion annually. The proposed free trade agreement is expected to further strengthen economic ties by liberalising 99% of UK tariffs and 90% of Indian tariffs. Amid global uncertainties, this trade agreement is expected to boost bilateral trade, expand market access across sectors, and strengthen investment flows between the two economies. Meanwhile, India and the United States are also close to finalizing the first phase of their proposed bilateral trade agreement, with 99% of discussions already been completed. Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal said that most discussions already concluded and only a few issues remain to be addressed.
यूएस के एम्बेसडर मिस्टर सर्जियो गौर ने भी कहा कि 99% चीज़ें तय हो गई है, छोटी मोटी कॉमास और फुल स्टॉप्स पे चर्चा चल रही है. फाइनलाइज करते वक्त जो वहाँ पे बदलाव आए थे, कानूनी बदलाव आए थे यूएस में, उसको किस प्रकार से फाइनल एग्रीमेंट में रिफ्लेक्ट करना, उसके हिसाब से किस प्रकार से बदलाव होगा, उसको तय करके मुझे पूरा विश्वास है कि यूएसए के साथ भी जल्द से जल्द हम बायलैटरल ट्रेड एग्रीमेंट का पहला ट्रांच खत्म कर देंगे, साइन करेंगे और आगे की चर्चा चालू करेंगे, आगे और कैसे व्यापक बायलैटरल ट्रेड एग्रीमेंट बनाया जाए.
The proposed agreement is expected to cover issues such as market access, customs facilitation, non-tariff barriers, investment promotion, and supply chain cooperation. On the other hand, India and Oman energized a new trade gateway through a landmark comprehensive economic partnership agreement that officially entered into force on 1st June. The India-Oman CEPA provides a comprehensive framework covering trade in goods and services, investment, professional mobility, and regulatory cooperation. Bilateral trade stood at $10.61 billion in fiscal year 2024-25, reflecting the expanding scale of India-Oman economic engagement. India secures 100% duty-free market access in Oman across 98.08% of tariff lines, covering 99.38% of export value, with benefits effective from day one. The agreement is expected to create significant export opportunities across sectors such as engineering goods, pharmaceuticals, agriculture and processed foods, marine products, textiles, chemicals, electronics, plastics, and gems and jewelry. The agreement also protects India's sensitive sectors with exclusions for dairy, cereals, edible oils, fruits, vegetables, and key agricultural items. The India-Oman CEPA aligns with India's vision of Viksit Bharat 2047, building a new era of opportunity for exporters, professionals, and investors. Bureau Report, DD India.
Still to come here on DD India Newshour, the WHO chief wraps up the DRC Ebola visit of his, urging stronger healthcare system in the affected areas. Trump appoints his ally and housing chief Pulti as the Director of National Intelligence. And Poland approves the primary school phone ban and also stronger porn age checks.
Welcome to Jaipur.
You're watching DD India Newshour. I'm Mark Lynn. Now, Israel and Lebanon have launched a fresh round of direct talks in Washington as US President Donald Trump says that progress is being made towards easing tensions between the two neighbors. At the same time, attention remains focused on Iran, with uncertainty lingering over Tehran's response to a proposed agreement with the United States. Amid these diplomatic efforts, the US Secretary of State Marco Rubio, he has told lawmakers on Tuesday that the United States remains engaged in talks with Iran, signaling Washington's continued push for dialogue across the region. Rahul Upadhyay has the report. The ambassadors of Israel and Lebanon began a new round of direct talks in Washington on Tuesday after US President Donald Trump said he had secured commitments from both sides to reduce tensions. Meanwhile, Iran has not yet responded to a proposed final agreement with the United States aimed at ending tensions between the two countries.
What we are working through is in many cases, is delays in getting the responses to people. And this is why you see reporting about there might be a deal in the next few days, because internally it takes time to get responses from them, sometimes upward to 5 or 6 days.
Fighting continues to flare along the Israel-Lebanon border. The Israeli military says its air defense has intercepted 2 projectiles launched from Lebanon into northern Israel and reported a suspicious aerial target that later fell inside Israeli territory near the border. Lebanon's health ministry says Israeli strikes near a hospital in the southern city of Tyre killed 4 people and wounded 127 others. Among the injured were 39 staff members at the Jabal Amal hospital, including doctors, nurses, and administrative employees. 4 remain in critical condition in intensive care. The ministry added that the attack caused severe damage across the hospital's floors, departments, and parking lot. Earlier, US President Trump said he spoke with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and that Israel agreed to pull back troops that had been preparing for operations in southern Lebanon. Trump also said he had spoken through intermediaries with the Iran-aligned Lebanese militia Hezbollah and received assurances that the group would not attack Israel. However, Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu warned that Israel would strike what he called terror targets in Beirut if Hezbollah failed to halt attacks on Israeli cities. The warning underscored the risk of a wider conflict. International leaders voiced concern during a United Nations Security Council meeting, assigning responsibility to both sides for the escalation. While diplomacy has opened a potential path toward reducing hostilities, continued exchanges of fire along the border demonstrate just how fragile the situation remains. Rahul Upadhyay's report, DD India. Now, Russia and Ukraine are trading fresh accusations as the conflict enters a new phase of escalation. Moscow has launched one of its largest aerial attacks of the conflict, while Kiev continues strikes on targets inside Russia. The latest violence comes amid stalled peace efforts and renewed warnings from the Kremlin. Diptanshu Kashyap has our report.
Russia launched one of its largest aerial strikes overnight, firing 656 drones and 73 missiles at targets across Ukraine. Ukrainian authorities said over 20 people were killed and more than 100 wounded in attacks that struck Kiev, Dnipro, Kharkiv, and Odessa. Air raid sirens echoed across the capital as residents sought shelter in metro stations, while Ukraine's Air Force said it intercepted 602 drones and 40 missiles. The strikes followed Russian accusations that Ukraine carried out attacks on civilian targets in Russian-controlled areas last month, allegations that Kiev denies.
We will discuss how assistance and support are being provided to the relatives of those killed and to those affected by the bloody crime that was committed by the Ukrainian junta on May 22 in the city of Starobilsk in the Luhansk region. It looks like by just consciously committing the most serious crimes against children and teenagers at the Teachers' College in Starobilsk and now in Henishevsk, the Kyiv leadership has decided to open a new page in the series of their crimes, add a new attribute of the conflict itself. Well, it is their own choice.
The Kremlin has linked the latest escalation to what it describes as Ukrainian attacks on civilians in Russian-controlled territory. Moscow has accused Kiev of carrying out drone strikes on a dormitory in Starobilsk and an apartment building in Henishevsk, claims rejected by Ukraine. Russia says it remains open to a peaceful settlement, but insists military operations will continue if negotiations fail.
As to the negotiation process, we have always said that despite all odds, the preferable option for us is the achievement of our goals in a peaceful way. Therefore, yes, we will achieve our goals, and we are ready to achieve them in a peaceful way. If not, if the other side will continue to drag the process out, reject the genuine peace talks and earnest decision which would open a path for peaceful solution, the special military operation will go on.
Officials in the Kharkiv region ordered evacuation of more than 7,000 residents from areas facing intensified Russian attacks. President Volodymyr Zelensky renewed calls for additional Patriot air defense systems, while prospects for a negotiated settlement remain uncertain. Diptanshu Kashyap's report for DD India.
US President Donald Trump appointed the federal housing regulator Bill Pulte as the acting director of national intelligence on Tuesday, elevating a political loyalist without security experience or national security experience to lead the country's sprawling intelligence community. Trump said Pulte would remain director of Federal Housing Finance Agency and the chair of federally supported mortgage backers Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. Tulsi Gabbard, Trump's first director of national intelligence, announced plans to leave the post in May. Gabbard said that she had resigned due to her husband's recent cancer diagnosis. The U.S. intelligence community is comprised of 18 agencies, including the CIA and National Security Agency, tasked with gathering data and information, security threats, both domestic as well as global. So the department has taken on increased importance in recent months because of Trump's war on Iran. Also, the recent attempted attacks on the president's life and on federal officials, and a raft of brewing military engagements with South America. The Danish Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen's new centre-left government will resist US pressure over the future of Greenland, tackle domestic inflation and expand the welfare state. This is according to a policy document published on Tuesday. After more than 2 months of negotiations, Frederiksen announced an agreement to form her third consecutive government, which could make her Denmark's longest-serving prime minister since World War II. The immediate to-do list includes ongoing diplomatic talks over Greenland, which the US President Donald Trump has threatened to annex, and a rapid build-up of Denmark's military as security in Europe deteriorates amid Russia's war in Ukraine. The future of the Kingdom of Denmark, consisting of Greenland, the Faroe Islands and mainland Denmark, is up to the three nations to decide for themselves, the government had said, adding that it, in fact, remained unwavering in its support also for Ukraine. The Ebola outbreak in Central Africa remains a major public health concern, with fresh cases being reported even as health authorities revise infection estimates and they intensify containment efforts. While the Democratic Republic of Congo and Uganda continue to battle the deadly virus, India has stepped up vigilance and extended medical assistance to support Africa's response. Here's our report.
Days after mounting fears of a rapidly escalating Ebola outbreak, the World Health Organization has sharply revised down the number of suspected cases in Central Africa. While 321 cases have now been confirmed in DR Congo, including 48 deaths, WHO says hundreds of suspected cases were removed from the tally after investigations linked them to other illnesses with similar symptoms.
As of 31 May, that is, we have in the DRC 116 suspected cases, 321 confirmed cases, and 48 deaths. And also important, 6 recovered.
Amid concerns that the outbreak may be larger than official figures suggest, WHO Director General concluded his visit to affected regions in the Democratic Republic of Congo, calling for stronger healthcare systems and intensified response measures.
And one thing that is very clear and we have understanding now is while fighting this outbreak, we need to strengthen the capacity of the health systems in the affected area. And at the same time, while fighting Ebola, we should make sure that there is a proper health service, essential health services, and humanitarian services.
In a significant development, authorities in Congo have reopened Bunia Airport in Ituri province, the epicenter of the outbreak after a 10-day shutdown. The situation in Uganda remains fluid. Health authorities have confirmed 6 new Ebola cases, taking the country's total to 15. The newly infected individuals were identified among known contacts of existing patients. 1 death has been reported so far, while 12 patients remain under treatment and 2 have recovered. With Ebola spreading across parts of Africa, India has stepped up precautionary measures. The government has issued a public health advisory emphasizing that no Ebola cases have been detected in the country. Travelers arriving from or transiting through affected nations have been urged to monitor their health for 21 days and report symptoms immediately. Reinforcing its commitment to global health security, India has also dispatched a second tranche of medical assistance to the Africa Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. The consignment includes protective equipment, diagnostic and monitoring devices, medicines and nutritional supplements aimed at strengthening the continent's fight against Ebola. As Africa battles a dangerous Ebola resurgence, health agencies are racing to contain the outbreak before it spreads further. For now, other countries remain Ebola-free, but officials are urging vigilance, preparedness, and early reporting as the world watches the situation closely. Bureau Report, DD India.
Now, extreme weather is intensifying globally, and developing El Nino threatens to worsen heat waves, droughts, floods, and storms. With rising human and economic losses, governments are shifting focus to preparedness, protecting vulnerable communities, and strengthening long-term climate resilience. Here's Divya Shekhar's report for DD India.
This year, the world is facing a barrage of extreme weather, from record-breaking heat waves to devastating storms and wildfires. Temperatures in Europe, North America, and Asia have soared, straining energy systems and water supplies. Southern and Central Europe have been particularly affected, with prolonged droughts fueling wildfires. Meanwhile, heavy rains and flooding have hit parts of South America and the Pacific, leaving communities struggling to cope. Scientists say these extreme conditions are amplified by climate change. Much of the world's weather this year is being shaped by El Nino, a natural climate phenomenon that warms the central and eastern tropical Pacific Ocean, altering winds, pressure, and rainfall worldwide. The World Meteorological Organization's Secretary General Celeste Saulo said that strong El Nino weather pattern is getting developed.
Our experts estimate an 80% probability that El Nino conditions will emerge in the period between June and August 2026.
The consequences are already visible. Wildfires have burned over 150 million hectares globally, a 20% increase over previous records, affecting Africa, Asia, and southern Europe. Farmers in Asia face additional threats from hotter, dry weather that could damage crops, compounded by fertilizer shortages and rising fuel costs. The UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres emphasized the urgent need to shift from fossil fuels to renewable energy.
El Nino is arriving on our doorstep in the coming months with 90% certainty. The world must treat it as the urgent climate warning it is. El Nino conditions will pour fuel on the fire of a warming world. Impacts will hit even harder, travel even further, and cross borders with devastating speed.
India is also experiencing severe weather impacts this year. The India Meteorological Department has forecast heavy rainfall over the southern states. Thunderstorms accompanied by lightning and
Come here on DD India Newshour. We'll get you an expert's take on the current West Asia developments, where Israel and Lebanon have a fragile truce. And as we focus on 12 years of the Modi government, we'll get you a report on the major transformation in India's security doctrine. Also, DRDO and the Indian Air Force have successfully flight tested the Rudra M2 air-to-surface missile. You're watching DD India Newshour. I'm Mark Lynn. Now, the situation in West Asia remains highly unstable. The Israel-Hezbollah fighting, it continues despite U.S. claims of a truce. Iran-U.S. talks are stalled, with Tehran threatening broader regional escalation. Civilian casualties are rising, especially in Lebanon. The Strait of Hormuz and Bab al-Mandab, they are still at risk. So we are joined by Ambassador Anil Kumar Trigunayat, former senior diplomat and expert on international affairs, to help us understand what's happening. Ambassador Trigunayat, diplomacy is active, it's fragile. Washington is hosting the Israel-Lebanon talks, but the fighting is continuing. So what's your reading of these talks?
Well, I think there are two things are very clear, that United States and Iran wants these talks to continue. Of course, they have prescribed their terms and conditions which are being discussed, and it appears that they have arrived at a significant consonance over various issues. One of the most important being to reopen the Strait of Hormuz by stopping both the blockades that are existing at the moment. Because there is a tremendous pressure globally as well as domestically in the United States with regard to this particular thing. And the other thing is that the US president definitely wants the way out. And therefore, what we have seen, and the other point is that it's also a given that Israel and the current leadership is not interested in this deal going through. That is very important. So therefore, a red line that we have for the Iranians was that the other wars in the region, for example, with Lebanon or the Gaza, they must stop. And then only there can be a holistic kind of an agreement or MOU that is to be signed. And this is also quite clear from the fact that if the reports from Axios and others to be believed, that President Trump was extremely unhappy with the way things are going on in Lebanon. And the rest of Europeans and everybody else, I mean, in fact, France has gone to the Security Council asking for a meeting. And most of the European countries and the rest of the world had really condemned these kind of attacks, greater project that's going on there.
Ambassador Thurgonayath, what strategic objectives is Iran pursuing through, its proxies like Hezbollah? And how weakened are these proxies currently?
There's no doubt that in the past 2.5 years, the Israelis have been able to not only decapitate the top leadership of Hezbollah, but has also put in, they are the most powerful of all the four H's, which is the Houthis, the Hamas, or Kataib Hezbollah in Iraq. So, but Hezbollah had been the most important and most powerful and most loyal, I must say, to Iranians, the grouping. And they have held their sway all along in this. So I believe that they have been significantly decimated, but that doesn't mean that they have been completely obliterated. And therefore, they are continuing to give big fight. And that's why President Trump, when he said that he has spoken to Bibi as well as to Hezbollah, and they have both simultaneously agreed not to carry on any fights. Of course, you can't really trust these kind of fragile ceasefires, as you yourself mentioned. This can continue to blow out of proportion, but definitely they are significantly reduced in their firepower.
Also, Ambassador Thurgonayath, what is Israel's expanded campaign in Lebanon aimed at? I mean, is it looking, at a post-war new security architecture, for instance?
Well, that is very true. But at the same time, we must realize that in the last 1.5 months or 1 month of the truce or ceasefire that has existed between US and Iran, Israel has tried to expand its remit region, especially it wants to expand into Gaza control up to 70%. It's already exceeded 55%. And then in Lebanon, it is for the first time crossed the Litani River, and wanting to completely have that full area as some kind of a buffer zone. So this is trying to create a change, as you rightly mentioned, the architecture and the basically Greater Israel project, which of course has many more dimensions to it. But by doing so, it is trying to create these buffer zones, which it calls necessary for its own security. And that's also a big red line for the Iranians and for the rest of the world especially.
So how much autonomy actually does Hezbollah have in Lebanon, and how does the country's leadership, the Lebanese leadership, deal with it?
Well, Lebanese leadership is pretty weak. And Hezbollah is also a political actor. Apart from being a non-state actor, they are participating in governance and all that. And therefore, the Lebanese government, which does not have that kind of power to control them, is obviously pleading, basically, that they should not put them into war with Israel. We are seeing these discussions happening in Washington, D.C. Or elsewhere, sometime between Hezbollah and between Lebanon and the Israelis, essentially to do some kind of thing. But this is not held back because the Hezbollah wants to be a player in its own game. and wants to be treated as such. And now that President Trump has spoken to, that means he has equated Hezbollah essentially with Israel to that extent as the ceasefire is concerned. So without Hezbollah being on board, it's virtually impossible to get the ceasefire there.
Final question, Ambassador Thrigunayat, what are the realistic scenarios, for the US-Iran diplomacy? Do you see a breakthrough or, a return to the battlefield?
I don't think there will be a return to the battlefield. Of course, it will not be an idealistic kind of classic ceasefire. It will have a lot of ups and downs. But at the same time, I'm pretty confident that we might see some kind of a MOU that they have agreed to going through in the next week or so.
Okay, we leave it there. Thank you very much, Ambassador Anil Kumar Thrigunayat. Thank you for putting into context whatever's happening in West Asia and helping us understand it better. Now, from the moment that he took office in 2014, Prime Minister Narendra Modi had made it clear that terrorism will not be tolerated at any cost. Overall, India's security doctrine has witnessed a major transformation. From surgical strikes and Balakot to the abrogation of Article 370 and the crackdown on Naxalism, the Modi government says its approach has been guided by zero tolerance against terror. Here's a report on 12 years of India's evolving national security strategy.
When Narendra Modi took oath as Prime Minister in May 2014, India was a country averaging over 700 terror incidents every single year. The Naxal Red Corridor stretched across 126 districts in 9 states. Kashmir had not known peace in living memory. And across the border, terror camps operated openly with near total impunity. What followed over the next 12 years was not just a change of government, it was a change of doctrine. The legal architecture changed first. The NIA Amendment Act gave India's premier anti-terror agency the power to investigate crimes committed outside the country. The UAPA was amended to designate not just organizations but individual terrorists by name. Total number of terror incidents between 2004 and 2014, 7,217, and between 2014 and 2024, just 2,242, a drop of about 69%. Civilian deaths due to terror attacks between 2004 and 2014, 733. Between 14 and 24, just 26, a drop of 96%. Individual terror designations earlier between 2004 and 2014, 0. Between 2014 and 2024, 36 under UAPA. NIA conviction rate also rose to 91%, which was earlier inconsistent. September 2016, Uri. Lashkar-e-Taiba militants crossed the line of control and killed 19 Indian soldiers in their sleep. India's response came 11 days later. Para-special forces crossing the line of control in the dead of night, striking 7 terror launch pads deep inside Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. Then, in February 2019, Pulwama. A Jaish-e-Mohammed suicide bomber killed 40 CRPF personnel on Jammu-Srinagar highway. 12 days later, several fighter jets of the Indian Air Force crossed the line of control and then crossed into Pakistan. The IAF struck Jaish-e-Mohammed's largest training facility in Balakot, 80 kilometers inside Pakistani territory in under 23 minutes. Civilian casualties, 0. August 5, 2019, the constitutional move that changed Jammu and Kashmir permanently. Article 370 abrogated, 2 union territories created, and the results were measurably almost immediate. From 2010 to 2014, 2,654 organized stone pelting incidents happened every year. In 2024, not a single one. Civilian deaths in Jammu and Kashmir down 96%. This is what zero tolerance looks like. Inside India, another war was being won. The Naxal Red Corridor, which at its peak in 2010 recorded nearly 2,000 incidents of violence in a single year, has been systematically dismantled. The government's deadline of complete elimination of Naxalism by March 2026 has been achieved. 1,936 left-wing terror incidents were recorded. In 2024, only 374, a drop of 81%. Naxal-affected districts in 2014 were 126. By 2025, it was just 11, and by 2026, just 3, a drop of over 90%. BRO's annual expenditure was stagnant pre-2014. This year, it has been 16,690 crore, highest ever recorded. National Highway Network in 2014 was 91,287 kilometers. In 2024, it was shot up by 60% to 1,46,000 kilometers. April 22, 2025, Pahalgam. 26 civilians killed by Pakistan-backed terror group targeted by religion. Killed in a meadow of Pahalgam in Jammu and Kashmir. On the night of May 6th and 7th, India struck Operation Sindoor. 9 terror strikes across Pakistan and POK belonging to Jaish-e-Mohammed, Lashkar-e-Taiba, Hizbul Mujahideen hit simultaneously with precision munitions. Over 100 terrorists killed. The operation lasted 23 minutes. On May 10th, Pakistan's DGMO called India's DGMO. Pakistan asked for ceasefire, requesting India to stop. 12 years, one doctrine, one message delivered again and again in the clearest possible terms. There will be no compromises with the sovereignty and security of India. This is the new India. In New Delhi, Akshay Dongre, DD India.
The visiting Deputy President of South Africa, Xiphokoza Paulus Mashatile, called on President Draupadi Murmu at the Rashtrapati Bhavan in New Delhi on Tuesday. During the meeting, President Murmu said that India and South Africa share a special friendship rooted in shared values, mutual respect, and a common history of anti-colonial struggle. The two leaders also discussed cooperation within multilateral forums and also explored ways to strengthen trade and investment ties. President Murmu reaffirmed India's commitment to its partnership with Africa and expressed support for convening the India-Africa Forum Summit at an early date. The Deputy President of South Africa, Mashatile, also engaged with business associates, current investors who are investing in South Africa and in India, and those who want to invest in South Africa. And he said that this visit reinforced the strategic partnership between South Africa and India and its shared democratic values.
The purpose of this visit has been to strengthen our trade and investment relations. As such, we engage business associates, current investors in South Africa and India, and those who want to invest in our country. We also discuss trade, investments, skills development, and infrastructure. Our meetings reaffirmed our historic common bond of cooperation and friendship between South Africa and India, and the deep cooperation in the area of trade diversification, investment promotions, skills development, and multilateral cooperation in such areas as BRICS, IPSA, the G20, and the United Nations.
And Deputy President Mashatile also thanked India for its support to the African nations during Ebola outbreak.
Medical assistance, India is one of the countries that have been helping a lot when it comes to medical assistance, development of vaccines. I actually came here with the Minister of Health. He's now gone to Hyderabad. But he did indicate that we have been getting a lot of our ARVs from India, a lot of other medication, and even now we expect them to continue to play an important role in South Africa.
The Northeast has emerged as a key pillar of India's growth story, witnessing rapid progress in connectivity, infrastructure and economic development over the last 10 to 12 years. Speaking to DD India, the former Cabinet Secretary and now Niti Aayog member Rajiv Gauba said Prime Minister Narendra Modi's Act East policy has been effectively translated into action with a strong focus on accelerating the socio-economic development of the region.
The Northeast has seen a transformation.
Absolutely.
Act East policy, articulated by the Prime Minister Modi, has been actually put into practice.
Right.
And I think one of the important elements or pillars of that policy has been to step up all efforts for social and economic development of the entire Northeast region.
The Defence Research and Development Organization and the Indian Air Force have successfully conducted flight tests of the Rudra M2 air-to-surface missile from an airborne platform. The missile was tested in very tough conditions and hit its target with perfect accuracy. Data from the test range in Chandipur confirmed that everything worked out as planned. The missile was fully developed in India by DRDO and its partner labs, marking an important step towards stronger self-reliance in defence. The Defence Minister Rajnath Singh praised the test, saying that it shows how advanced India's homegrown defence technology has become. India has expanded its financial assistance program for meritorious students from the economically weaker sections at the University of Jaffna in Sri Lanka. The enhanced scholarship scheme was launched by the High Commissioner of India to Sri Lanka, Santosh Jha, distributed scholarships under the expanded India grant scheme. And so the upgraded initiative, it was announced by Prime Minister Narendra Modi during the Sri Lankan President Anura Kumara Dissanayaka's visit to India in December 2024. And it comes into effect from the 2025-2026 academic year. Under the scheme, 100 first-year students will receive 7,500 Sri Lankan rupees per month throughout their degree programs, benefiting 400 students by the fourth year. Prasar Bharati's digital streaming platform Waves OTT has crossed a major milestone, reaching 1 crore registered users within 2 years of its launch in November 2024. The platform now hosts over 24,000 content titles and 15,000 hours of programming across entertainment, news, education, culture and public service genres. It also offers 140 plus live TV channels, 200 plus radio services, live event streaming and digital publications such as Yojana, Kurukshetra and Rozgar Samachar. Waves OTT is available across mobile, web and connected TV devices in over 130 countries, reflecting the rapid expansion of India's public digital media ecosystem. A key rail link between Pathankot in Punjab and Joginder Nagar in Himachal Pradesh has resumed after the 2022 flood-damaged bridge over the Chaki River was rebuilt, restoring the narrow-gauge toy train route through the Himalayan foothills. The services resumed on Tuesday, restoring the route for locals as well as tourists.
A key rail link between Pathankot in Punjab and Joginder Nagar in Himachal Pradesh is back on track. The narrow-gauge toy train journey through the Himalayan foothills had been suspended in 2022 after floods washed away a bridge over the Chakki River. The bridge has been reconstructed and services resumed on Tuesday, a welcome development for both locals and tourists.
ये ट्रेन आज पठानकोट से दोबारा चालू हुई है.
This train resumed its services today. It had been suspended due to the collapse of a bridge. We used to travel by road, which was expensive, but now that the train has resumed, passengers will benefit and fare will also be more affordable.
We are going to Jwalaji to have darshan of the goddess.
We are traveling on this train and hope to enjoy the journey. The train has resumed after 4 years. Its services were suspended due to the collapse of a bridge. Let's see how enjoyable our journey is going to be.
The rail link is expected to boost tourism, support local businesses, and improve connectivity in the region.
The train has resumed its services after 4 years, and that's good. It will be convenient for passengers and also help boost the local economy and tourism.
As the train whistles once again, the restoration of the Pathankot-Jogindarnagar rail link has brought back a reliable and affordable travel route connecting Punjab and Himachal Pradesh.
Well, that's all we have in this edition of DD India News Hour. Let's know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those of you on the go, get the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code and download it now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Mark Lynn. From all of us here in Delhi, thank you very much for watching DD India News Hour. Namaskar.